Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Daring and Doing podcast. I'm Hester and I'm joined by the brilliant Ben Bowman. Ben, how you feeling?
Do you know what? It's been a miserable day. I've not enjoyed. I've not enjoyed this one bit. You know, today's got me like.
Yeah.
Woke up this morning. I didn't. To be fair, obviously I went to the game last night. Even the mood in the ground afterwards was pretty subdued. Like I went for a beer with my mate, met him in there. And when I got the train home, like obviously on the train home, I was reading all the Ange things and all that. And then I got home and talked about it. I was like, it's actually a bit shit, isn't it? This all feels a little bit wrong. And then woke up this morning and it was almost like you'd woken up and just like you'd done something you regret the night before. Like you'd kiss someone.
It's like you tried. It's like you tried.
Your missus. I've not done, by the way, but
it's like you've tried cuckolding. Just I'll give it a go. I want to see them get smashed, and then you're like, actually, I fucking hated that, and I'm not going to do that again.
We were the big Premier League's biggest cucks last night.
Yeah. So it did because there was a feeling of like emptiness and wrongdoing, wasn't there?
Yeah.
How were you? So how were you feeling? How were you feeling in the ground then during the whole thing?
Mate, the atmosphere was weird because it was actually quite good. Like it was actually like I don't know what it came through across on TV like. I think for me, one thing that I kind of feel like from people who I've spoken to that watched on telly was that Sky were focusing so much on the Spurs fans that weren't getting behind the team, which actually was the minority. And you can't let the truth get in the way of a good lie. And it's good for them to sort of show like the 2 or 3 fans that did the Poznan. I know we were all joking about it before the start of the game, and like we were saying that run on the pitch and all that. But they were focusing. It felt like from what I heard and what I sort of saw from clips and stuff on Twitter is that they were very much focusing on those kind of people rather than actually the 50-odd thousand that were getting behind the team. Like that's what it just... Look, don't get me wrong. I wanted us to lose that game last night. And when the first thing I said to the bloke next to me was, so what's the etiquette if we concede? Are we celebrating or what are we doing? And they were just laughing about it. And then the atmosphere before kickoff was actually, there was points in the game where it felt like a bit like Soccer Aid, but also a bit like we actually really wanted to win. It was the sliding kind of scale was very bizarre, like which was kind of summed up when Son went through on goal and the bloke next to me just screamed, "Oh no!" And then the guy in front in the row was like, "Go on, Sonny! Go on, Sonny!" It was just
crazy.
Because the thing is, when you're watching the game, like especially when you were playing as well as we were last night, like your natural instinct as a fan kicks in. And I saw Charlie Eccleshare tweeted this before the game, and it's actually really true. Like, at what point will it get to where like Spurs fans kind of just, I guess, get swept up in like the thing of actually just like not getting swept up in the feeling of wanting to win, but like engage in the game and actually like, yeah, exactly. It's just that thing of just like, well, I'm in my seat, I'm getting behind the team. That's what I do. When we go on the front foot and attack plays, you're like, go on. But inside of you, there's this empty feeling of just like, please don't score, please don't score.
It's horrible.
And that's what it was like. I couldn't watch I'll be honest, when Son went for on goal, I couldn't watch.
Really? What were you like? Just hands over your head?
I sort of just put my head down. I think luckily, the bloke in front of me sort of stood up, and it was like, you know, the thing of like when you get off your seat, like as someone's going through, it was like,
yeah.
Luckily, I think he sort of did that, and I was just like, just chose not to look round him. I was just like, I can't see, but I'm not looking. I'm like, I'm respectfully not looking.
You did the Jurgen Klopp when there's a penalty, you just turned your back and try to look everyone else's direction.
And
then when he missed, you were like, yeah.
Your shit,
wanker. Everyone's like, that's the thing though, is that you could tell in that moment through the TV, because I like you're saying, it's interesting.
What about the anxiety? Like the anxiety?
Yeah, you could 100% tell, because I mean, like you were saying about like it being really focused on the sort of the minority that weren't celebrate or weren't back in the team.
Yeah.
That's how it come across in when you're watching it on TV, I think, because they're hyper focused on that. So it sort of manipulates you sort of thinking, oh yeah, that's true. And then when when someone went for on goal, there was a like that, and then when he was running through, it was a little bit it faded a little bit. And then when he saved, there was a big, oh my God. And I don't know what the reactions were. I don't know whether people were going, oh my God, he's missed, or oh fuck, he's missed. I don't think anyone were really, I mean, I don't know, but I can't imagine anyone would have been furious with him. But it was that thing of, wow, that was a huge moment.
I saw
that was where we bottled the league for Arsenal, which is so ironic.
I saw Carragher said that, and it's actually really true. After the game, he said that moment for Arsenal fans could be, and is likely going to be, what the company goal against Leicester was to Liverpool.
Yeah.
Like having that thing of just like, how the fuck has that happened? Like, just but the complete opposite of it, because it was a moment for us that we'll look back on. We've had so many what if moments with Spurs, but like, not many of them end up, and usually ones where it's like, if only he'd scored that. But could you imagine if he had scored that? Like, what the actual reaction would have been? I'm glad we never got to find out what the reaction would have been like if we scored. But you can tell, like, in the I watched the highlights when I got back, and they show like a clip of when Son's running through. When they show the replay, it's like from behind Son, so you can see the south stand. And there's a lot of people, like, when he missed, like, hands on heads, like, sort of like, oh, but then you don't know whether that's just like hands on heads because it's just like they might have had their hands on their heads the moment that he ran for a goal. But there was like people visibly like, oh, like it was like that from what I saw. But again, like my mum, I was chatting to, I rang my old man earlier, and because we were at the game, I had a beer with him, but I didn't see him afterwards. I was chatting to him on the phone about everything, and he said that my mum watched it, and she said that all Sky were focusing on was just like the anti-Arsenal, like the "Are you watching Arsenal?" and all that kind of stuff, and it almost felt like they were probably turning the volume up at points when Spurs, like, that was loud. Don't get me wrong, like when Spurs fans were singing that, and when Spurs fans, do you know what felt like the best happy medium was when everybody started singing "Stand Up If You Hate Arsenal," because that was just like. There were chants going, like, I went to Spurs and all that, and come on, you Spurs. Like, people were getting behind the team, but it was all the anti-Arsenal stuff that really got everyone going. Because even if you kind of want Spurs to win the game, you can still sing that. Do you know what I mean? It was like,
still hate Arsenal.
Yeah,
you sing that anyway.
We hate Arsenal. we hate them anyway. And it was
but
like
this is something different. Yeah,
I'll be honest. The "Are you watching Arsenal" stuff, I really found that quite uncomfortable, because we started the south stand, or parts of the south stand, which turned out to basically be the whole south stand, was singing it just as City went 1-0 up. And it was like, even if you can think what you want about the Spurs fans' attitudes towards the game, which obviously we're completely on side of, like, wanting to lose, but singing that at 1-0 when there's 45 minutes to go was very, very risky. Like, very, very risky.
So do you reckon that actually stunted our performance? Because we'll get into our performance. It was fantastic. Like, it was actually
very good.
Arguably one of our best, especially the first half. Arguably our best first half this season, especially because you're looking at the caliber of the opposition as well.
Definitely this year.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, in 2024, 100%. But do you think that stunted the team? Because I'm actually convinced that we would have won that game if the atmosphere was fully fully behind us, and there was that sort of unity in we want, like, if the circumstances weren't as severe as this, I really think, I mean, watching it, I don't know what it was like in the crowd, but watching it on TV, I was thinking, wow, like, if we had that intent of, come on, Tottenham, like, come on, and the whole crowd, it would get so sort of hostile for City, because it can be, and it can be our biggest motivator. I genuinely think we would have won that game. I thought we would have. We were playing that well.
Yeah,
do you think it stunted it?
I think we could have done. I thought City froze a bit in that first half, to be honest. I thought City had some really outstanding performances, but I thought for the most part, by their own very high standards, they were quite poor. Again, the caveat of that is they're by their own high standards, because if any other team sort of put in that first half performance that wasn't City, you'd be like, yeah, Spurs played really well, but we're in a game here. It wasn't like, it only felt almost worse because of how good they actually are. Do you know what I mean? Like, it felt like they were worse than they actually probably were, because you're probably expecting one to get blown away a little bit. When in reality, the game was never really going to be like that, I didn't think, because when we play like that, we are a very good side. And like some of the build-up play, some of the playing out from the back and playing through the lines of City was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And that's what makes me think it didn't affect the players that much, the atmosphere. I don't think it did, because they played well for 90 minutes of that game, and they missed a couple of chances that they still might miss, even if everyone's bearing them down. Everyone's willing Son to score. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was actually quite a decent save from. Like, don't get me wrong, he should score. Like, he should 100% score that. And how many times have we said on here, Son is the sort of player where when he goes through in those opportunities, you blink and it's in the back of the net and everyone's walking back to the halfway line. And you wouldn't have wanted in any other circumstances, you wouldn't have wanted any other player in that position, because you know that he's going to score. But I know Ange said after the game, didn't he? When obviously we'll talk about Ange's comments a little bit in more detail, because there's a lot to unpack. But he sort of said at the end, didn't he, about which obviously made everyone realise that he was talking about the fans, even though it's quite obvious already, even though he didn't want to say it. When he was saying about how the fact with the reason we've had so many late winners is because of the fans who got behind us and all this kind of thing. And maybe you're right. Maybe if the fans were giving it that extra 10, 20, 30%, then maybe we would have. But I don't know. It's just impossible to know, isn't it?
Yeah, I would argue against that. I think I think that that sort of attitude and the atmosphere would definitely rub off on the players, because like I know they're top professionals, especially Son. Like Son is the ultimate professional, but he's human, and the thoughts going through your head of, especially when you're 1-0 down with 5 minutes to go, because a draw was actually the worst possible result, because it would have got us nowhere and it would have got Arsenal the league. So I think I don't think he would have intended to miss, but I think subconsciously he was running through on goal and thinking, I'm Mr. Tottenham. He is Mr. Tottenham.
Yeah.
What the fuck is the outcome, the fallout, if I score this? Yeah. Because we're still going to play Europa League. I'm not saying he's thought this and he's missed on purpose. That Son wouldn't have done this, but your sort of subconscious comes into play there in massive moments like that. And I think that maybe it was the sort of surety in his strike. He sort of dragged it across, and he never does that. Son.
Sort of scuffed it a bit, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. But he always pings it outside with an in curler in the opposite corner. No, in the near post with so much power and precision. I mean, 99 times out of 100 he scores that.
Mate, he could have gone round. He could have gone round him.
He could have chipped him.
He could have rounded him.
It was certain he was going to score.
Well, did you see what Les Ferdinand said? Did you see what Les Ferdinand said?
I was just thinking about that.
When he was like, the immediate thought after that goal winning at Old Trafford was like, what have I done? Yeah. But the difference with that, I suppose, though, is that there was nothing on the line for Tottenham in that game other than stopping, because we were a mid-table team that wasn't going anywhere. It was just it was another game for us. Our thing was about stopping Arsenal and making sure that we lost to Man United to make that happen. But obviously, the added complication of this is the fact that there was that carrot there for Spurs of Champions League, even though again not in the bag. Do you think that if Spurs were level on points with Villa going into the game, or it would have, I suppose, because the goal difference might not have helped us, but hypothetically, if that game would have put Spurs, if a win would have put Spurs fourth, maybe level on points with a better goal difference, do you think the atmosphere is different, and do you think that the players performed differently? I don't think it makes an impact on the players, because I think they gave it everything. They did give it everything.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. Yeah, fair play to them.
And what I did notice, though, before you answer that, was when you talk about it rubbing off on the players, it's interesting how, James Maddison, to take as a good example, right? How whenever Spurs get a corner in the second half of games, if we're chasing it, Maddison's always to the crowd, like, come on, like, when he goes over to take it, revving them up. There was none of that last night. There wasn't any of that from him. So
it felt a little bit like a training game.
It did a bit.
A little bit. There were aspects of that.
Yeah. Do you think if it would have put Spurs level on points, and it basically,
I think so.
You think so? Yeah?
I think so, because the players aren't Spurs fans. And Ange's and that they would have seen every player wants to play Champions League football. That's like the ultimate dream.
Yeah.
And that 100% would have been their motivation to. But I think, especially in the 85th minute, when someone had that chance, I think they would have known that the game, that a draw, they wouldn't have won that game. A draw is the only thing they could salvage. But like, especially with the atmosphere, I actually don't know if that goal goes in. The thing is, if that goal goes in, the crowd isn't then going to be like, "Come on, we can win this." Everyone's thinking Arsenal have just won the league. Yeah. So I think they would have known that. And to answer your question, but if Champions League was on the line, I think there would have been a difference for the players. 100%. I do, but I don't think and I think even the crowd, there would have been a much more of a. I think some fans would have accepted it a little bit more if Champions League was a definite. It's just the fact that Champions League wasn't confirmed. Like there's nothing confirmed about it. The likelihood is we still wouldn't have got Champions League. So this ain't worth it. Like, just take Europa League and go into next season, because next season there's a chance then to stop Arsenal in the like normal circumstances. Instead of this, because this is the weirdest situation, and I actually hated it, and I'm so glad that's over, because we don't have to think about that ever again and think that way and have that mindset, because it was awful. The biggest thing about Sports Spurs is the unity and the sort of tribalism. I think you tweeted this actually, and how beautiful that is, and how it makes you feel a part of something. And every time Spurs attack, you're all in unison, supporting the team and pushing them forward. There wasn't that. It was so conflicted yesterday, and it was horrible. And all the stuff you love about football was taken away from you.
Yeah. I said, though,
I hate it. I'm so happy it's over.
Yeah, no, so am I. The thing is, it's not even over, is it? Because it's like, you'd imagine. I mean,
that's true.
In terms of the league, like, I don't even mean it because of that. Like, you'd imagine City will do their job on Sunday, and Arsenal will beat Everton. Someone tweeted earlier, because City's game is on Sky and Arsenal's on TNT, and someone was like, "It's over. You can't win the league on TNT Sports."
That'd be so shit.
Yeah, but it was like I said earlier, though, that the crowd wasn't as disjointed as I think it's being made out to be last night in the ground, and I think it was. It's funny. Again, people will have all different experiences from where they sit. Where I was, me and the two blokes who I chat with regularly, who are there every week, were very much of the thing of just like getting behind the team, but hoping that we don't do it. There was a guy in front of me that was absolutely banging, getting behind the team, and just like every time we went forward, it was proper. It was as if it was a North London derby. But my mate who stands in the South Stand, he said that it actually kicked off behind him, because when City scored the first goal, they were actually actively celebrating the goal. And even Spurs
I don't
like that.
I don't like that.
I did, but and the same sort of thing as like are you watching Arsenal thing? It was just a bit like, really? Like, well, none of us want to be here. None of us want to be going through that.
There's something to be proud of.
Exactly. You can't. We've not stopped Arsenal winning the league. Man City have beaten us. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've beaten us. And also, Arsenal stopped themselves from winning it when they dropped points. But, that can happen when it's that tight at the top, and they've still got 86 points. It's like we haven't stopped Arsenal from winning the league, even though we technically have. But it wasn't like that. It wasn't just like, again, there was no, when the final whistle went, when it was actually done, there was no celebrations. It was just like, you actually felt, my overwhelming feeling at the end of the game was I actually felt really sorry for the players.
Yeah, that's it.
And also, it was kind of helped. It was kind of helped by, I think, the fact that Mikey Moore came on as well at the end of the game. I think there was that feeling that kind of left a nice taste in the mouth of like, oh, it's a kind of a glimpse into the future and stuff and all that. And at the end of the game, I just felt quite sorry for the players. I just did. I was just like, they didn't ask to be in this position. They're professionals. They were out there to do a job, but unfortunately, they've got to be kind of acutely aware of the situation, and obviously we'll get onto it with Ange's comments, because it's the same thing there. But it was weird, man.
Yeah,
it's ever want to fucking go through that ever again in my life.
No,
it was horrific.
And hopefully we're on the process of we could determine these sort of things with wins,
exactly,
instead of losses.
Exactly.
And that's something to look forward to.
Yeah,
go
one
on,
more
mate.
thing on that as well. I was going to say this earlier. I forgot when you were talking about the Son chance then, and you said it was the 86th minute. Honestly, I had no idea that it was that late in the game because the second half just dragged on for so long, and it felt like it was going on forever. When it was only really when you looked up at the clock after that he'd missed that you realised, fuck, that would have. I know there was 10 minutes added time in the end because of the Edison thing and all that, and City obviously scored again in added time. So they might have done it anyway if we had have equalised. But because of how painful and anxiety-inducing that second half was, you had no idea what minute that was in. It all felt like it was just moving so slowly. It was fucking bizarre, man.
So say we did equalise there, and then 100th minute, that's how much it went on for. City would score a winner. What's the atmosphere then?
I think there's more of a celebration from Spurs, I'll be honest. I think there's more like a not a celebration. I don't know. I think there's almost like a.
We don't have to think about it. We don't have to think about it. It didn't happen.
Knows,
yeah, honestly. It's a stupid way. I don't know why I don't know why I brought it
up. Yeah, honestly. I just want to pack this game in a little box and chuck it out.
Yeah, just forget about it. Yeah, like I say, it's like a drunken memory you wish you never happened, like you never did. Or
yeah, it is like that. And do you know what's made it worse as well is that all the Arsenal fans. I mean, it's just been a barrage today of just like. We'll talk about it later, I guess. Yeah. But with the kind of Arsenal fans' reaction to it, but yeah.
We can't say we didn't give it a go because we were really good, and like you said, you feel really sorry for Spurs. You feel really sorry for Ange. We're going to get into Ange in a sec. But yeah, I was. The thing is, this game it is bigger than these players. It's bigger than Postecoglou as well in the fact that this game will outlive their tenure at Spurs. It will live on in history. They will come and go. And hopefully we're going to have incredible memories of them and special moments. But this game and the consequences of if we won or if we drew will live on and hurt us forever. So 100% you can understand their frustrations, but this game's bigger than them. Like you have to understand the mindset of the Spurs fans and for us wanting to lose. But I actually didn't watch this live. I watched this after at really late last night, with no stress knowing the result. But I was in the cinema. By the way, if you plan on watching Planet of the Apes, don't. It's wank. It's the worst film I've ever seen in my life. And the whole time I was looking at my phone. And I was actually annoyed when the game ended because I was like,
watch the film again.
This film's shit. But I was on my phone the whole time. And I wouldn't say I was like celebrating when City scored. I think I just sort of closed my eyes and just took a deep breath as a little bit of relief. But it was that sort of dirty shame relief of, okay. And then can we just and then when it was over, I was like, okay, I can forget about this now. I don't have to worry about the possibility of Arsenal. But to be fair, how shameless will we feel if City lose to West Ham and Arsenal win the league? Right. And after all that, we would feel horrible, and that's why I'm as nervous for this weekend as well, because I just want to see it over the line and then be like, next year we're in this title race. That's my thinking. We're in this title race next year. This can be a learning curve of this. Is sometimes circumstances like this happen when you're not in the running, when you haven't got any say on it. Although to be fair, we could have beaten Arsenal at home, but I felt really bad for Ange. And he suffered the most. Him and the players, they suffered the most from this. And if it was taken out of like the strange circumstances, I think the game was something to be relatively proud of. I know it was a loss, but the foundations were there. And so, how did the Ange quotes make you feel? Because there was the sense of like the fun came to an instant stop, like as soon as he started talking in the presser after. Do you know what it felt like? It felt like when you were like younger and you'd have a sleepover with your mates, and it would be like 2 a.m. and you're like hyped up on sugar and you're having such a laugh. You're loving it. You know you shouldn't be, and like you know it's like so like risky if you do it, but you're laughing your head off and you're making too much noise. You're pissing about. All of a sudden, your dad in dressing gown and your mum in dressing gown comes down and fucking has a massive go at you, like proper embarrasses you. Stop! Yeah, I'm so fucking disappointed in you.
Yeah.
Well, actually, hang on. Yeah. And then like they kick your mate out, or they start having to go at your mate or something like that, and you're all like, What? Like, I didn't, like, you just sat there like,
didn't even do anything. Didn't even do anything.
All right, Mum. Yeah, okay. All right, see you later. I'm sorry. And then you sort of look at your mate and you're like, fuck. Like,
that was embarrassing.
Awful.
Yeah.
That was how it felt when Ange came out in the press conference. And so do you understand? Do you understand where he's coming from? And what were your like sort of takes from that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you agree with it?
I agree with some of it. I agree with him. I agree with what he's. You can't not agree with what he's saying. It's just about the sentiment and the timing, I think, of it. I have a few issues. One, because like you said, it kind of just put a stop to the fun just immediately. Not that it actually was even that fun in the first place. It was just more relief, and then that relief was just more.
It's more like taking the piss out of Arsenal fans, and then all of a sudden now Arsenal fans are like, look how your manager's reacted. Like,
yeah,
you're a shit club.
I just want to talk about that. I want to talk about that first because they have gone from saying that Ange is this fucking shit, fat, Aussie overrated fraud in the last season that he's actually crap to now apparently Spurs fans don't deserve him. Apparently he's got that winning mentality that he's trying to bring to the club and that we don't deserve him. Make your fucking mind up. Like he's either a fat Aussie bastard and he's shit or he's not. Like that's how they see it. And they're trying to get this moral sort of high ground of just like, you should be embarrassed about the way you acted last night. And even your manager's saying it. That's all I've had today from people at work and like people on social media. I've had people tag me in fucking videos talking about it today on TikTok, which is just fucking embarrassing. And it's like, who just bought Arsenal? Oh yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, they're always going to spin the narrative. Always,
of course they are. God, that's what they do best. That's what Arsenal fans do best is spin the narrative so it suits them and makes anyone that's not on the path that they're on just look like a fucking idiot. But in reality, if the shoe was on the other foot, they'd be in exactly the same fucking position. They would, and anyone that says that they wouldn't be is a fucking liar. Is an absolute liar.
Yeah, I 100% I agree. But I think they were all stunned yesterday watching that game. I think there was the anticipation of Spurs are going to throw this game, and the way we set up, I think shocked a lot of people because there's this sort of misconception of, like you say, like this big Aussie coming into the Prem. I just want to play football, mate. And I think they interpret it as he has one thing he does, and you can beat him. He has a lot of weaknesses that you can exploit, etc. But sometimes it works, and Spurs fans keep talking about him. He showed that he is a tactician yesterday. He stunned Guardiola. We're going to get into the system later, but he stunned Guardiola with the change in shape and the formation and the proof that there's a plan B. And the reaction was so positive. I tweeted this earlier, and I think it's true. I think when Arteta was in his first season, and you're thinking about like Lampard, Ten Hag, those sort of managers, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, every time they lost, everyone would be like, please stay, please don't sack him, please stay. The fallout of this game was all rival fans saying, please leave, or Ange is going to leave. And there's that optimism of he's showing that he's having enough and he's going to leave. That's the biggest compliment we could possibly they could possibly show us, because they may think they're sort of taking a piss or they're getting to us, but you're proving that in the first season where we've showed a lot of fragility and vulnerability, that everyone and their nan can see that we're going somewhere with Ange, and there's such a promise in the way that we're playing. And if we can get those final pieces of the puzzles, that we could be a problem for anyone. We caused so many problems with City yesterday, and on another day we would have beaten them. And I see that as the biggest positive, like taken away from those sort of reactions. Because he showed that adaptability, and he showed that he proved a lot of people wrong yesterday. I know we lost, but on another day he coached a win.
He coached a good. He coached a good game. He coached the.
Yeah, he did.
He couldn't. There was nothing Ange could have done any different or any better in that game. There's nothing, because at the end of the day, you put your players out there, and if that's how you set them up, and they're playing that well in terms of the build-up and playing through the lines of City and cutting them open and making them look like a pretty average side. Yeah. You know, Postecoglou can't stick the ball in the back of the net through 1-on-1. You know, it's down to the players at the end of the day. And I know.
Imagine he had that pace.
And Postecoglou's burnt away.
Just shrugs off Diaz like fuck off, like dinks Ortega and just knee slides in the corner. Or shushing the Spurs fans.
Yeah, probably. Probably. I mean, yeah, he couldn't have done anything any different yesterday. Which kind of leads me on to a bit of the frustration with some of the comments is that it's all well and good saying it now, but where was this in the last few games? Like, where was this? Like, last night didn't cost Tottenham top 4, even though it was the last chance. It's the games that we lost in the run up to this and the performances and maybe the failure to adapt in those games. But again, like, it's easy to spin that narrative when, he said something that you don't quite agree with, because you can spin it any way you want. And naturally, the comments got fans' backs up last night, which, again, every fan has got a right to feel like that. But it would have been nice to maybe see that kind of element of adaptability in games that would have actually... Because I genuinely believe if we set up and play like we did against Arsenal, we win that game, or don't lose it, certainly, against the Gooners. Which, again, wouldn't have even put us in this situation. City would have won the league by this point, and we'd be in the top 4.
Yeah.
Newcastle, I think Newcastle, we got out-classed and out-coached, I think, in that game, to be honest.
Yeah.
And also, we had a fully fit squad available for Newcastle, other than Richarlison, I think. So, Newcastle's not the best game maybe to analyse, but some of the other games since then, Chelsea, for example, basically the games that we started Emerson Rowe at left back. But again, I said, and I'll hold my hands up. I won't hold my hands up, actually, because I said that I'm not a massive fan of the idea of Van der Ven at left back, because I don't think that he would suit that role. But in the last couple of games, he's been playing. He played excellently at left back against Burnley and excellently yesterday because he's playing as a left back. He's not playing. He's not invert. Only Porro was inverting yesterday. Van der Ven didn't at all. Van der Ven was a left back, and that's where you're going to get a good performance out of him. I would have been a bit more worried if he'd been playing in that inverted role, but it shows that, again, it's just not just right. I'm going to, putting someone in and playing in that position. It isn't just a case of like plug in and play. It's not just like, right, you're a left back, so you can go and do everything that Destiny Doggy was. It's a case of, right, I'm going to adapt and tweak it so that I can make this work, but also stick true to kind of the principles that have got us to this point. And obviously, I thought it worked really, really well. And we looked very solid at the back as well, a lot more solid. We weren't as open to transition because we know that we've got that pace of Van der Ven on the cover if we need to, but we also just didn't open ourselves up too much because both fullbacks weren't inverting so much, which again is fine when you've got Porro and a Doggy, because a Doggy knows how to play that role. Yeah, and he's got that defensive awareness, and he's just a much better footballer than Emerson.
Do you think we adapted the system into overloading the midfield through dropping the striker into a false 9 position, like etc.?
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, we're gonna get into this in more detail, but do you think we did that as maybe to compensate Van der Ven so he didn't have to invert? Because like you're saying, your biggest worry was him playing with his, like how a Doggy does, playing with his back to goal. On the turn, he can't really do that. But when he's driving as a left back, he's pretty unstoppable with his ball carrying.
Yeah, I think as well. Like I think on Sat, obviously we didn't do a pod after Burnley, but on the weekend, like that goal came about from that. He's playing it. He was in a fairly central position, but the game state allowed that to happen because we were chasing a goal. And that, even I said after the game, look, I'm still not sure about this long term. I think it definitely worked if you want to make that tweak in game to play Van der Ven there, because it means that he can drive forward with the ball. And he's obviously very confident going forward. But I think the game state really allowed that because Burnley, they needed that goal to go on and win the game. So naturally things were a little bit more open anyway. But again, like I was really pleasantly surprised from what I saw with Van der Ven. But I wasn't surprised because as soon as you got a couple of minutes into the game and realised that he was playing as a left back, then it was like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So are you saying that Ange's come out with the quotes, but he should have been doing stuff like that in the games prior to this City game, and also more specifically the Arsenal game, because again, like I said, we wouldn't be in this position where we're supporting the opposition if we'd gone and got a result, even a draw against Arsenal. Yeah. Are you saying that's where you find your issue with it?
Well, no, because you don't know, do you? Like you don't. He might have thought that was the best way to. At the end of the day, it comes back to the fact that he's approaching this game by game as a manager because his job is to win these games. Yeah. And he's tried things and they haven't worked, and he's tried something and landed on something now that it feels like it does work. And he's not done that because he's gone out of his way to purposely win this game because of the situation. It's just because he's there to win the game. And he might have tried those changes in games gone by, and it might not have worked so well. So who really knows? My issue isn't the fact that he seemingly put more effort into winning this game or anything like that, which is kind of what's been spoken about in terms of, obviously Ange had that altercation with the fan. But the video did the rounds after the game, and apparently that started because the fan was repeatedly accusing Postecoglou of putting more effort and desire into winning this game than some of the other ones, which I think is complete bollocks. Like, it's absolute bollocks. I just don't think he should have said anything, because if he doesn't say anything, then people won't start going, well, why did we play like this against City, and why did we make these changes now? And it's not as just simple as like make the changes play better, because it might not have worked. It just did. It just a really good game on the night. Van der Vet, like, we could play that system against Sheffield United on Sunday, and we might get, I mean, touch wood, we don't, but yeah, hypothetically speaking, that it might not work in future games, but it's just that it did work in this game, and naturally the kind of people are going to turn on him and say, well, why did we try these things in this game, and why didn't we go about it in some of the other games, and why didn't we see these changes? But again, I think he's only opened himself up to that because of the comments that he made. Yeah, whether he's right or wrong or not is another question, because I think a lot of what he's saying is probably true, but he's a winner. He's a winner at the end of the day, and he wants to come in from an angle of winning. And he can't get his head around why people wouldn't want to. But it's not as if he said that the fans shouldn't do it. He said he's almost said, in other words, that I can't tell them what to do. I can't tell the fans what to do. It's not my culture. It's not how I see it, which is completely fine. It's completely normal. And as a higher elite sportsman at the top level as a manager, that's gonna be the case. But I think he's only opened himself up to this criticism because he did open his mouth in such a strong way. And I think what frustrated me was that he didn't really say anything, because he put it out there, and then when he was sort of questioned on, well, what do you mean? He refused to say anything and was almost like trying to get people to read between the lines, even though it's fairly obvious what he was actually saying. But I found that a little bit disappointing. I was like, if you want to come out and say it, just say it.
Yeah,
just say
true.
it. Yeah. Take the kind of mystique away from it. But like I said, I don't know. That for me, there's no question of just like, oh, well, we tried this because we wanted to win this game more than the other games, or that there was more on the line. There is more on the line for the club. There was, but it's just a case of, I think he's only opened himself up to that criticism because of what he said, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like, it could have been the case that we lost all those tough fixtures and we learned from them, and we've gone with something completely different, like not playing Emerson Royale, adapting the system, and we played a lot better. And maybe that's something we progress with in future games. And again, we're going to get on to like the system and individual players in just a moment. But I agree with both. I mean, I see both sides. I completely understand Ange. Like, he's a top professional, lives and breathes football and being successful, and he's got such a reputation, and this was one of the games where he proved his sort of tactical ability and prowess, but we ultimately lost, and the reaction wasn't disappointment, so he's going to want to change that. But then I agree, the fans retaliating, saying don't tell us how to support our club, and also acknowledging that this is bigger than Ange. This is bigger than anything. This is Arsenal winning the league, and because of us, because we won, which is so ironic. It's not fuck we lost and Arsenal won the league. It's fuck we've won, and that's such a weird circumstance. It's not going to happen again, especially not in Ange's tenure. Hopefully not. But
no, this is what Carragher was saying before the game. This is what Carragher was saying before the game as well, is the fact that Carragher was one of the only pundits really to come out and say that.
Yeah.
Carragher literally said the Tottenham fans shouldn't want their team to win. Kind of completely understand where we were coming from. And what he said is that if Arsenal were Man City, hypothetically, in the sense that they were still Arsenal, but if they had the success that Man City did, and Arsenal were winning the league every year, and they hadn't had this spell where they hadn't won it for 20 years, and the last time they won it was at White Hart Lane, to then go full circle 20 years later and then us hand them the title after, because it's like United fans, right? I know United fan at work, and I know obviously a fair few of my mates are United fans. They'd rather see City win the league than Arsenal, because they don't like Arsenal. They don't like Arsenal's fans. But the fact that they rather City win the league than them shows that they've kind of just become a bit numb to City's success and them winning it. But it would have been comparable to like what United fans would have felt on that day when Aguero scored that goal, because it was the first time. It was like, fuck. And for many Spurs fans, like, I was unfortunately alive to see Arsenal win the Invincibles, but I was a kid, so it doesn't connect in the same way. I can't sit here and say, oh, I've already seen Arsenal win a league, because it's like, realistically, I was playing with fucking Thomas the Tank Engine. Like, it's just like that. Like, that's what it is. So, it would have been that. It would have been a lot of younger Spurs fans' first experience of seeing them win it. The older fans know what it's like to see them win it. They'll live through that, especially when they won it at our ground. And for us to be the ones that put it on the plate for them to do that because they basically would have won the league at White Hart Lane again. That's what they would have sung. Yeah. We wouldn't have heard the end of it.
Yeah, mate, it'd be fucking annoying. The ripple effect of Arsenal and what they'd cause for every club in the league if they won the league. I mean, you never hear the end of it, even when they're shit. And they're always like, when they were bang average, they were saying how good they were. If they won the league, we would never hear the end of it, and we wouldn't have anything to say back to them. And the thing is, it gives us that hope now that next year we'll improve, they'll improve. Hopefully, I mean, we've seen with Poch firsthand that when you keep going, and you get nothing in return. It's a psychological battle more than anything with the players, and eventually they fall off. And they stop believing, and they stop listening to the message, and that's all we can hope for, is that they then fall off. And as Pep, his era comes to an end, and by then we've got a complete squad. But you can hope and hope, but I mean, next year Arsenal are going to go for the league, and that's why we need to be ready to challenge and sort of influence it in our own way instead of it being this circumstances. So there's been a lot of sort of, in the reaction to us losing this game, there's been a lot of rival fans saying how this is, we've got like a losing mentality, and this is the sort of the weak mindset of the club, that we're celebrating a loss. I think they just don't get it. Like, they obviously don't get rivalry, and I think there is very little passionate rivalries to compare to the North London derby. Maybe like Rangers, Celtic, and possibly United, Liverpool, but I don't even think it's on the same level. There's very little derbies as heated as and with as much hatred as Tottenham and Arsenal. But what did come out was Jack Pickbrook tweeted this. He reported this, and I'm going to read it. This is from Tottenham Tears on Twitter, but this is the quote of Jack Pickbrook. He said, "Most aggregating of all to Postecoglou was the sense that a few club staff, many of whom are Spurs fans, had been relaxed about losing because of the title context. While the majority of the club staff had been focusing on their work as normal, the prospect of losing to City had been a theme of jokes among minority of staff from the last week. When one member of the supporting staff joked to Postecoglou that he should play a youth team against Manchester City, the manager was furious." I can imagine that already. Like someone being like, "Oh, maybe start at Mikey Mori," and they've done and like laughing, and maybe like it has sort of a nervous laugh.
Yeah.
And Postecoglou's just like, "Go fuck yourself,
mate. Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah. Why don't you come here, mate? Why don't you come into my office, mate? You ever say anything like that again, mate? You'll be out of this fucking job quicker than I can say fucking mate. All right, mate? Yeah, there's the awkward thing of just like, I can imagine it going down like Brent, like David Brent. It's been like, "Oh, you should play. Why don't you play the youth team?" And then just see the fear in Postecoglou's eyes, just looking at him. Postecoglou did that thing the other day in the press conference when he got asked about, have you given up?
Yeah.
When he was like, "Oh mate." When he said, like, "You really think I just come in, pour myself a latte, and tell the boys to just kick some balls around?" Just like, that he would have been just shot down, just like, "Oh mate."
Yeah.
But I'm not
Wait,
angry.
are you saying the guy that made the joke was like David Brent? Or Ange?
Just like in terms of like how the joke would land, like as in like the guy, the coach would be like David Brent, and just like thinks it's really funny, and then just like. Well, I thought it was I could imagine him being the David Brent meme of where he's like, "Finch,
why don't you fuck off? I can imagine Ange Postecoglou saying that to him, being like, why don't you fuck yourself, mate? Go fuck yourself. And then they're being like, oh shit. Yeah, I should have said that. But is there an argument, Ben, that there is this sort of, and it's been the foundations of the club have been weak for years now, like decades.
Yeah.
And maybe this is the like because of this sort of stuff. Is there an argument to be made there, or do you just think it was just such extreme circumstances?
I don't know.
And like that this situation is just completely isolated.
Yeah, I think it's that personally. I don't think you can say that Spurs fans have a small club mentality, because you can't have it both ways. You can't accuse Spurs fans of being a small club or having a small club mentality when we're constantly bashed down for not being a big club in the first place. That's the hypocrisy to me. But you could argue that we haven't acted like a big club when we should have done in terms of backing certain managers and backing and really investing and spending money, basically. And I think kind of when you put Ange's comments in perspective, I think it is, to jump back to it, I think it's a message to the fans, but it's more important, it's a message to the board to say, like, it's giving him ammunition to say, back me. Because what people won't report on is that obviously he was really angry, and that is what grabs the headlines. But all of it was not caveated, but all of it was finished with, and I want to be the person to make this change. I want to bring this mentality to Spurs. I want to be successful. I want to do this. Like, it wasn't, this is what's irritating. I know it's kind of jumping all over the place a bit, but we said this. Did we talk about this last week with Ange's comments about wanting big changes and people comparing the Conte rant?
Yeah.
Makes no sense. It's not the same at all. Like, not the same. And I saw this clip doing the rounds of it was like someone had compiled the Mourinho saying that I have no affinity towards Tottenham clip, the Conte thing, and then obviously this. And actually, it was I know a lot of Spurs fans won't like him, but Rory, the Arsenal fan, Rory Talks Football on TikTok, actually made a very good video about this, basically saying that how there actually is like almost. He said that his video was like, do Spurs fans have a small club mentality, and was kind of referring to those videos and saying that there's a massive middle ground to be had when it's like you can understand Ange's comments, but again, like he has to understand the position of the fans. And I think some Arsenal fans actually get it. But like I said earlier, most Arsenal fans are using it as a stick to beat Tottenham with because they're sore about what happened, really. And they're saying that they like I said earlier about they rate Postecoglou, they think he's shit, and then all of a sudden it's like you don't deserve him. It's like, make your mind up. But I don't think we've got a small club mentality. I don't think that exists. I think that's nonsense. I think it's absolutely nonsense. Because how can we be coming out and saying that the players and the manager really want to win the game? That doesn't go along with having a small club mentality. A small club mentality would be Ange coming out and saying, "Look, we don't really give a shit what happens, and send the boys out and see how we go."
Yeah.
But I mean, the coaches thing, you shouldn't say that. Just, you can understand why Ange was irritated about that, because again, it's him kind of maybe not understanding that the real level of the vitriol of this rivalry, but also like just be a bit more fucking professional in a high stakes environment and setting, because before you know it, you'll be out of a fucking job and someone else will be doing it. So it's a bit of a silly thing to say, really. They
definitely would regret it straight away. And actually, if there is anything within the club that sort of backs that up in that sort of that mindset of being a little bit weak or winning isn't the be all or end all, Postecoglou's putting that straight, and he's going to be the main figurehead to sort of carry us into success. And it makes me love him even more when he says stuff like this, and that he's fucking pissed off that we lost, because we've got a winner that is here for the long run and not throwing his toys out the pram 24/7, saying how shit of a club we are and threatening us to leave. He's here for the long run, and he wants to get everyone with the same mindset as him. And so I see that as a positive, and actually the guy's job probably is at risk after saying that. I'm not being funny, and there's been lots of reports saying that Ange wants new staff, he wants new players, and this is the chance now to put those sort of comments to bed in regards of small club mentality. This is the chance now for Daniel Levy to go out there and completely back Postecoglou. So there's nothing.
Don't undermine him. Yeah,
don't undermine him. Just back him now, and let's then see what Postecoglou can do. Because you need to be successful, you got to have the full vision right from the top. That'll be interesting. And this is the chance now to put those comments to bed.
Yeah. And it also it puts a lot of things in perspective, and sort of to go back to what we were saying about when that feeling of waking up this morning and it all feeling a little bit dirty is probably part of that for me. Was just like, do we just have to accept that in the next 4 or 5 years that Arsenal are going to win the Premier League, and we just have to find a better way of dealing with it? Because at the end of the day, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just that, because again, I probably, if we were in the same position again next year, we probably would all want the same outcome. But then again, it's usually, the risk is far greater because we've been here before under Postecoglou and he wasn't happy about it, and he's not going to. He might understand the rivalry a bit more, but he's not going to change his view because that's his view, isn't it? And he is a winner, and I think you have to let him. You have to back him in the transfer market, but you have to back him in terms of how he sees the vision for the football club, and that's having everyone on the same page. And like you said earlier, I think it's almost. I think that feeling that is eating away at Spurs fans today is almost that feeling of just like, we've got something really good going on here, and you just really don't want something like this to fuck it up. But that's kind of what it feels like.
It is a little bit like your parents just being like, "I'm really disappointed in you." You just feel like really low. Your head drops, and you're just like,
when you're a kid and you get told off by your parents, and you want to go out to your room and just scream like silently
at the door, like
just like bury your head in the pillow, start punching the pillow because they're right, but you're like, fucking wrong.
It is like that. It is like that. Silent screaming. Until you give yourself a headache.
Exactly.
That's so funny.
And they come down, so you come downstairs and they're like, "Have you calmed down now? Have you calmed down?"
Yeah, they know you're doing that. Like Postecoglou probably knows we're going to be like this for the next couple of days, and then we're back on the train.
It's very interesting to see what his press conference is going to be like on Friday.
Yeah, it will be actually. Yeah, he doubled down. This is what I
was going to say. I think he might leave it. I think it'd probably be wise to leave it, and I think he might just go, "Look, it's done. I don't want to talk about it anymore." I wouldn't be surprised, because the thing is, this again, this was the case before the game, the case after the game, and it will be the case again on Friday. The English media are constantly trying to trip Postecoglou up because he's not warming to them, because they're constantly trying to do it, asking stupid fucking questions. Like, have you given up on the season and all this bollocks? Asking questions like last night, which, to be fair, again, last night was more extreme circumstances. They're well within their rights to ask those sort of questions, but they know what they're going to get. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. It's that sort of thing, and it sells headlines, it clicks, it generates a massive story that goes beyond Spurs and Man City. It becomes a massive conversation because it's the crux end of the season, and it's a manager at Spurs losing their rag, which we've seen over the last couple of times. And then that leads to that snowball effect of people are comparing it to previous managers and stuff, and they've got the story. That's what it is. But that's why part of me thinks that he'll just put his guard up a bit on Friday and just be like, "I don't want to talk about it, mate. I've said because although, like I said, I was frustrated at the fact that he started saying it and then wanted to, and then almost stopped himself and was like, he sort of like, Flav said it on Jaffin earlier, like he threw the grenade, he pulled the pin on the grenade but didn't throw it. Almost, it was just like, or whatever the analogy was, of just like he's dropped a bomb and just walked away. In the sense that, well, come on then, what do you mean? But we all knew what he meant. So I think because of that, I think he's got it off of his chest. He knows that he has to change things from the inside. But like I said, the fact that he came out, the fact that all of those sentences, for the most part, were ended with, "I want to be the person that makes the change. This is down to me to make this happen at this club." That's what makes me think that he will just move on. He'll just move on. He knows what he needs to do. He said, "I've got to go back to the drawing board on a few things." That felt a bit ominous in itself, but who fucking knows? I just love him. I just love him. It's that thing, again, coming back to the parent analogy, when it's that thing of just you feel like you let them down, and actually the next day you want to give your mum or something a hug and just say "I'm sorry." It feels like that, doesn't it? It feels like that. You've done something to really upset her, and she goes down the whole "I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed." And then when you're a kid, it might be you do something stupid, write her a letter because you feel really sorry.
Like,
just
sorry
give it to her
there,
and just give her
Should we all do that?
Should we all write?
Just write Postecoglou and the team, or the Spurs song sheet. Just write a sorry song, or something
Ange.
to just be like, this won't happen again. We love you, and we're with you all the way, and we want you to win every single game. It's just this was just ridiculous, this circumstances, and we hated it.
Also, that makes me think about Sunday. I'm going on Sunday, Sheffield United. It makes me think that I think the away fans will give him a proper sort of just we're behind you, like we are.
Yeah.
Because we've gone from a couple of weeks ago and given it the old like this, and then pointing to the fucking not a badge, it's fucking heart and that. And now we're almost here, which just feels like what's happened. So I think the fans will give him a really good sort of a bit of appreciation on Sunday to basically just say that, look, we are invested. That game's done now. We are fully behind you. Let's fucking crack on, have a good end to the season, and we go again next year. That's how that's how I feel. That's
things like this. It's do you know what? It's like a relationship. At the very beginning of your relationship, you've had the honeymoon phase. You're loving it. Then all of a sudden, you have your first argument.
Yeah,
and you go away and you're like,
we're going to break up. We're going to break
up. Yeah. Fuck. Have we just broken up? Are we going to break up? Is this the end? And then the next day, you give a kiss and a cuddle, you make up, and you learn from that and you move on from it, but you take that with you and learn from that and you become stronger. It's like that. Today was oh shit. Does he still love us?
That is exactly what
that's what it's like. So it's like, but now, we're just going to learn from that and move on and move on together. And again, like you say, it's the same sort of analogy for when you say sorry to your parents. It's the same analogy when you're making up with your spouse or your partner. We're going to give them an even bigger season send off than we probably were previously, because we want to make him know. Yeah, I think he would have regretted saying that in his press conference as well, because I think he's aware that a lot of the questions he's getting from the Spurs journalists and the correspondents is a result of years and years and years of managers giving them leverage and in press conferences and having multiple meltdowns. And I think Postecoglou is so aware to that because he's so aware of everything. I think as soon as he said that, he was like, I don't want to carry on. I've said too much. He was very emotional in that point, and it's hard not to say anything, especially after having a massive go with a fan. And I think he just thought, fuck, I don't want to I don't want to relate to these failures at Tottenham, because at the end of the day, emotion cost them the job, and probably cost them the dressing room. So I think he realised and just shut up and just said, take that what you will, and he probably won't comment on it again. I'll be surprised if he does. Moving on to the game then, because it's been an hour and we haven't actually talked in depth of game. Were there any performances? There were so many good performances all round. I don't think anyone really had a bad game. What performances surprised you the most, and that you thought next season? Maybe they start, or maybe we play that way, or maybe they play there, or because we've changed quite a bit.
Yeah, I think the main one for that. I think the main one for that is probably Dragusin, but not the thought of we definitely need to give him more game time next year, because that's going to come anyway with European football. But I think it just shows that there is another alternative there, and it's just Dragusin and Van de Ven almost come as a pair in that situation, because one doesn't really work without the other. Dragusin's playing because we know that Van de Ven can play at left back if we need him to, and it's obviously adapted to not play as an inverted fullback and everything we touched on earlier. So that was nice. I thought it was really good. The block killed me. That really made me laugh because it just hit him, and then he did the celebration. There was one moment with Haaland where he sort of got away a little bit from Romero, but Dragusin just came and was just like, nah. He's a strong boy, isn't he? His positional awareness is good. He's good in the air. He's good on the floor, even though he doesn't look quite. He's not as technical as Romero, and he's not as much of a, I suppose, like a bulldozer as Van de Ven in terms of the way he can carry the ball, but he's got something about him. Actually, he's probably more of a bulldozer than Van de Ven. He's maybe not quite as elegant as Van de Ven, even though
he's good at carrying. Yeah, he's good at progressive carries. He looks like he's comfortable in that.
Yeah, bear in mind it's not on his side either. He's not running with that momentum of it being in front of him all the time. He's sort of having to naturally sort of just skew inside because he's comfortable on his right foot. But no, I was really impressed with him. I was really impressed with Pap Sarr. I thought he took to that line role really well. He's excellent. Really, really good. It just worked, didn't it? It did work. because at the start of the game, when you see the team, you just thought, well, what's he going to do? Is it going to be almost like a bit of a diamond in midfield with Son and Johnson through the middle? Is it going to be Maddison at left wing, which I thought it was going to be, and it turned out again it wasn't really. It was very, very fluid, and it was. There was a lot of good performances. I thought the whole midfield actually. I thought Bentancur was outstanding.
Oh, he was brilliant, really brilliant. Yeah,
it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And when you were watching, I can't remember if I spoke about it earlier, but I thought there was some good. I mean, City by their own standards weren't as good as they have been, but there were still some great performances. And I thought their midfield was very good. And I thought Rodri in particular was just unbelievable, especially when you're watching him live. You kind of really get that appreciation for his ability to be press proof and calm under pressure, and just like gets the ball, gives it straight away. Just like doesn't even look. It's just so ingrained in his mind. And I thought Bentancur was like that for Spurs as well yesterday. You give him the ball and he won't hold on to it for too long. He was the glue. Those runs off the ball. He was the glue. I thought Højbjerg was decent as well. I mean, that moment where he just shanked the ball to Foden was just so predictably him.
Yeah, it really was.
He was either going to have like a blinder and be the reason that we won it, and everyone be like, well, where the fuck has this been from him? Or he was going to like cost us in some way. And in the end, it was a bit of a middle ground of both. But
do you reckon he knew he was playing too well when he was like, fuck, I need to do a Højbjerg moment.
Yeah.
I need to be me.
Yeah. Hold my beer. Yeah.
Yeah. But what were you going to say?
Well, did you see him after the game? He was like straight away with Kyle Walker, wasn't he? He was sort of giving him that big handshake. And
it almost looked like, go on, win the league. I think that's what he said.
Yeah, Romero as well like with all the Argentinians were loving it, weren't they? Lo Celso with Haaland, and it was like Romero was just like with Pep as well. With it. And even Sonny was sort of just like, again, people are like, they're not going to be that. I mean, they've missed out on Champions League. They were obviously visibly a bit, I wouldn't even say they were gutted, to be honest. It was the end of the game was weird. But I was really, I think, probably perhaps Kulusevski I thought was great as well when he came off the bench and played in that false nine role. He does look so much more comfortable centrally. And I think, again, like when he's actually been, when you're playing him in a new role like that, obviously he played on the left at the weekend and it didn't really work. He started over there. He was better when he came on the right, but again, it wasn't one of his best performances. But he does look a lot more confident through the middle, whether that's up front or not.
False nine could be a position there for Kulusevski now. Like where maybe a little bit further up gives us more control in the midfield. You know what? I thought the system was brilliant. It really surprised me. I didn't think we had that in a locker. It was very. I mean, we've made tactical tweaks throughout the season, playing our way, but this was probably the biggest. Off the top of my head, like the biggest change, I think, where we were thinking, okay, we've actually changed the whole formation here, and like you said, Van der Ven wasn't inverting. I'll talk about Dragusin. Actually, I'll talk about him in a minute. But yeah, it showed that we can be adaptive going into next season, and it will give a lot of teams a thing to worry about, because I think a lot of teams have sort of sussed out Spurs' fragilities in this season, this moment. We're going to add a lot to it and make us sort of unstoppable with a tricky winger, presence in the box, maybe more destroyer, midfielder, etc., and depth. But we showed that, hang on, like teams will doubt now whether to, like what Tottenham team's going to play. And they'll have to adapt in two ways now and react in two ways. We've shown we've got a plan B. It did work. I did think we were a little bit. We could have scored a few chances, but we were a little bit toothless. There was that lack of presence in the box, which is obviously that's going to happen when there's a false nine.
More so in the first half, I think.
Yeah, first half. Yeah, Kulusevski did make an impact in that sort of in that way, because he was much more attacking than Sarr. But I think we shocked City. City looked poorer in the first half, obviously, but I think they were just shook that we did make that change. No one was expecting us to make a drastic change like that. But yeah, we shaped up in a box formation in possession. That's something like De Zerbi's been doing for Brighton. Something that it just gives you that so much more control in the midfield, and you completely overload the midfield.
It's something that Ange did quite a lot in Oz as well, wasn't it? When he played three at the back, and that's kind of what we did yesterday.
That's the thing, and that's a segue into what I was going to say about Dragusin. So I'll get that out of the ways. But first of all, everyone played brilliantly. Everyone, I think. But yeah, Dragusin really he really impressed me, because he felt more secure, because at Genoa he was playing in the middle of a back three, And Van der Ven would often tuck in almost to be at the back. And because he has the pace, but Walker was always isolated on the right-hand side. There was so much space for Walker. But as soon as Walker would get the ball, I don't know whether this was intended or not, Van der Ven would be tucked in, keeping it compact so they couldn't cross it into the box to Haaland. But then he'd get out to Walker as quick as he possibly could. And Walker didn't really know what to do because there wasn't really an opening for Haaland. And then all of a sudden, he's been shut down because there were so many bodies in the box, and then all of a sudden he's getting shut down. So that did work. But Dragusin, there's definitely areas in his game that need improving. That's normal. He's 21. On the ball, you don't really trust him with his passing. But again, he's playing on the left-hand side. You've got to take that with a pinch of salt. He's playing on the left-hand side. Now and again, it would be a bit of a wayward pass. But overall, I think he was really, really good. Such a hard game to come in and play. And he was outstanding, and he didn't look out of place. And you can see that he's got the mindset to his biggest worry is his agent. But you think like he's got the mindset of if his left foot isn't that good in possession, he'll work on that all summer. He treats his there's been reports that he treats his body like a machine, or like and that he's so like anal about certain things, measurements, etc.
That's a specimen, isn't he?
Yeah, that will follow through with his weaknesses on the pitch. He'll know that he needs to get better with passing, short passes with his left foot.
100%.
And he'll improve on that. He's 21 years old, and he probably won't even be playing on the left next year because we'll have that cover from a signing that can play centre back. But do you think there's less of a impetus on getting a left back now because you've seen that work on with Van der Ven put a shift in there?
That's a good point.
Ben Davies.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Davis is apparently one they're going to want to listen to offers for, but I think it means that you can probably cover yourself a little bit, doesn't it? Really, and it kind of has solved a bit of a problem.
Gertruda is a player that I'd think maybe that makes sense because he's been playing on the left back. He's been playing at left back this season for Feyenoord, but he can play centre back, but he can play right back. Really, that's his best position. But he looks like someone that he's a bit of a Swiss Army knife. And I know he's not left footed, but if he's played on the left, if he's played at left back, he can play left centre back. He's someone that I could think maybe someone like him cover across the whole back line and be a bit of a Swiss Army knife for us.
I think you're right. You're right. Again, we talked about Caliafori before. I think that's probably quite unrealistic, isn't it? Like he's just qualified for the Champions League with Bologna, but that sort of player that I think the key attribute for whatever defender Spurs sign, I think, like you sort of alluded to, will be that versatility. Again, there's been those links to Kyle Walker-Peters, which I'll be honest, I'm not sold on that. I don't get that. I'll be honest. I don't know. I wouldn't be unhappy with Walker-Peters, but I just think that. I mean, we talked about someone like Archie Gray before. How realistic that is, I'm not sure. It should be for Spurs, but in terms of the situation that he's in, whether they go up, if you'd imagine if they go up, he'll definitely stay there and all stuff like that. But I think Archie Gray hasn't played on the left, but the reason they're probably targeting Walker-Peters again is because he has played on the right and on the left, and he's good on the ball. So
yeah, going back to the false, this new sort of system with the false nine. Really quick, it really limited the chaos actually because we kept the ball so well. We were just popping it around. We had it was such a good shape. It solidified us in defence. It seemed like against a team where we've been torn a new one by so many teams this season, especially in transition. And City, you're thinking that's the biggest game when you're going to get like anally penetrated. But this, like, we were much more secure, much more solid, and I think it's because there were so many bodies in the midfield. And in our press, there were so many players in our press. There was about 3 players at a time chasing that ball down, and they couldn't. We were suffocating them, and I really liked it. It did stun them. But what type of player then on the market is there for that false nine if we were to look? Because maybe someone like Goodmanson who has been putting a shift in for Genoa up front, but he looks like more of he's more of an attacking Swiss Army knife. He can play on the wing, he can play in an attacking 8. Someone like that, do you reckon we're going to go for someone like that with that in mind, that we could be playing with a false 9?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but I think that they might. It's interesting because obviously with the striker targets that have sort of been rumoured, they're all very much like focal point kind of strikers, aren't they? Like, I'm not saying they're all target men by any means, but they're all players that can be that target man, and I'm sure Goodmanson could probably be if he wanted to, but that's not really his game. I think just before that, just on what you sort of said about the game, the way we sort of set up, that was one of the games, just like at the start of the season, where we looked really well coached. That's what it was, really well drilled and really well coached. So that again is massive credit to Ange. But with the false nine, there was one player that it made me think of, and we've spoken about him a lot. Abere Eze. Could you imagine Eze playing as almost that false nine, just having that freedom to just sort of drift and float and be, because he's got that quality.
He drifts into the box as well. He does. He drifts into the box.
His goal last weekend against Wolves made that run on beyond the last defender, round the goalkeeper and scored. Like, he's got that ability to. He's got the quality and he's got the positional awareness of where to be and how to float and be hard to pick up and hard to track. I see the vision. I think Eze. Goodmanson is a natural. I think, like you said, he's someone like a natural fit for that too. Whereas, like, if you're looking at Solanke, Gyökeres, Tony, Openda, I mean, Openda's more of a play on the last man sort of striker, but so is Gyökeres. But then Gyökeres can drop deeper and link up there. It's just they're more strikers. They're more like they're actual strikers we've been with.
Yeah. Let's get into that then, because Paul O'Keefe, you probably all know this by now, but if you're not aware, Paul O'Keefe linked us with a handful of strikers earlier this week. They're not bad, are they? They're not bad. Good. It was very, very promising. But so what I want to do to finish this podcast is rank all of them out of 10 and give you reasons why. Like, who would be the best choice when it comes to system, and what will they add, like, with the pros and cons? Availability, adaptability, etc. Starting with okay, here's the names, all right? Jimenez from Feyenoord, Guirassy from Stuttgart, Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon, Openda from RB Leipzig, Tony from Brentford, and Solanke from Bournemouth. Starting with Jimenez, out of 10, what are you thinking?
5.
5, fucking hell! You're just thinking Janssen, aren't you?
I like what I've seen from him. We've spoken about it before.
That 5's like below average, isn't it?
Is it? I thought that was 6. Oh no, that is average. That depends who you ask.
What are we talking about?
It was massive. 5 is good. 5's like really good. Probably too big, if anything.
10s and that, they hurt.
Yeah, you don't want your heart broken by a 10 in more than or your body broken by one either. Jimenez, I'm just like I said before, I just think that if we're going to sign a striker, I want it to be an upgrade on Richarlison. There's something that's giving me bad vibes about the Jimenez thing. I'm not seeing it.
He plays in an attacking system as well. He plays in a very attacking system. So the goals he was putting up were pretty reasonable and were very good at the beginning of the season, but he didn't carry that through to the end of the season. I'd give it a 6.9, 6.8, 6.9, round it up to a 7.
Nice.
Because he's 22, 23. A lot of potential, quick. He got a big leap on him. He looks like a hard worker, good link-up play. He can play with his back towards goal, but I just think it is a bit of a risk because he's doing it in the Eredivisie, and he's been around for a couple of years, but I just don't know if he can transfer that to the Premier League. Like, it's such a different animal, and if you're not at it every single game, are you going to cope? So, but yeah, Jimenez I think would be I'll give him a 7. But Guirassy, this is a Spurs 16 mil release clause. Like, this is Spurs written all over it, but he's fucking so injury prone.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Guirassy. I've not seen a hell of a lot of him, to be honest. Again, he was another one a bit like him, and just started the season on fire, right?
He ended up with a lot of goals in the Bundesliga. I think he's got around 26.
That's
I might be wrong. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, by the way. But I think he's got about 26 Bundesliga goals.
I wouldn't.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Guirassy. I just, again, it feels a little bit underwhelming to me.
Yeah, you know what? If we sign, because Paul O'Keefe also didn't rule out us signing 2. if we sell Richarlison.
So yeah, that's a good point.
If we say we sign Gyökeres and Gyökeres and probably Solanke would be like the really expensive ones. I think if we sign like an Openda, which we're going to get onto, or a Jimenez, if we sign a Guirassy as that sort of target man, Llorente type striker, I'd be happy with that. In the Europa League, maybe I'd be happy with that. But if we sign Guirassy on his own, I'd be so disappointed. But because availability is why we're probably selling Richarlison, no? So if we sign Guirassy for 16 mil, we made a massive profit. But at what cost? Because he's going to be out for half the season. He does, and can you transfer 26 goals in the Bundesliga to the Premier League? The Premier League's relentless, and you've got to be at the top of your game every single game. And if you're constantly getting injured, do you have to keep getting back into form? Do you know what I mean? He's 28, is he? 28 or something? He's late 20s. He's not a young striker. So I just don't know about Guirassy. I'd probably give that a 6.5, 6. So Openda is interesting because I'd give this like a high 8 to 9 if we were replacing Son with him. Because I don't see him as an out-and-out striker. He's a bit of a striker-winger hybrid. I mean, we should go back for Openda in the next couple of years when we're looking for a Son replacement, unless Mikey Moore or someone at the club already is seen as that Son replacement. But Openda's brilliant. He's not going to be a presence in the box. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it really excites me. I like the idea of it. But again, it's a bit like a sort of, like you said, about almost like Brennan Johnson sort of thing as well. Just like, I know Brennan Johnson hasn't played through the middle for us other than in a few games where he's tried it later in the game when we're losing. But it's sort of that similar thing of just that. It's almost like what we were saying earlier, the kind of opposite of what we were saying earlier about the defence, in the sense that the key thing about the defence, you almost need to kind of fill those gaps in the best and most efficient way, is having that flexibility. Whereas it feels like we just need a striker, like and Openda might, exactly, a big fucking
Ben Bowman,
exactly. Get me
a Proby,
yeah. Imagine that partnership, Jesus Christ. Openda excites me, but I think you might be right. I think I'm not sure exactly what we need.
Yeah,
maybe who knows.
I agree. He'd be a lot of money as well. Tony.
I've called on Tony a bit, but I still think it'd be a decent 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
There was some stuff going around yesterday that apparently Spurs, that might still happen. They reckon there's people that think that will happen.
Oh yeah, what, you got a little in the know, Ben?
It's a little maybe a bit of IT, maybe a little bit of ITK that said that they reckon Tony might happen still. They reckon Tony might happen. But I've calmed down. I've called on Tony a little bit, but I still, if we'd sign him, I wouldn't be unhappy. And I think he could be what we need. And I think maybe if he gets that move, then all of the kind of other stuff sort of goes away a little bit. But I think there are a couple of people that I probably would prefer, and I think they're the two people that are left on your list.
Yeah, I'm with you on the last two, but Tony, I think I would give it like a solid 8.5 to 9 because he's so proven. The thing about Tony is that he's had a similar sort of pathway to Ange, the fact that he's had to really fight to get to the top. They might bond over that because he likes characters who have the same sort of mindset as him. It's just he can't be slating the club. He can't be doing any of the bollocks that he's doing at Brentford, and also. He needs to say to Ange, I don't want any other club. I need Spurs because otherwise he don't want him. But
do you think as well though that in that way that Ange is actually the perfect manager for him? Because, and we said this before in the sense that if Tony passes the Ange test, then you know that it's going to work because, like you just said there or alluded to it there, like Ange won't sign him unless they really think they're going to kind of get that level of commitment from Tony, which is something that maybe might put off some of the other clubs, but. I think that also just the fact that I just don't think Ange would stand for any of that bullshit.
No, he wouldn't. Yeah, that is true. What's interesting in that interview where he come across quite bad and he started to work for Arsenal at the end, and it was just a bit like, shut up. But in that interview, he said about Thomas Frank, he was saying that he needs a manager that says to him, "You're my main man, and we're going to do things with you, like spearheading us into that successful or into playing well. You're going to be the main player, basically." And since Thomas Frank I think Thomas Frank said a certain quote, and Tony then come out and said in a post-match interview, I don't know if you saw it, he was like, "Well, as I see that, as he don't want me." Since then, Tony ain't been scoring, he ain't been playing that well, and there was a moment where he didn't play.
Or he's not really been playing either. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think what you need from Tony's, he's very out for himself. You can tell that. But when the manager believes in him, he's very for the team because he knows he's the star of the team. But he will play for the team. But as soon as he's sort of put down or anything like that, he looks like he sulks or he starts chatting shit which is what we don't need. But maybe Ange is the perfect manager for us. It's a bit of a risk because it could go sideways. But he's proven in the Premier League, and when he's playing for the team, he presses, he's physical, he's aerially dominant, which is exactly what we need. You can think about corners and him heading away from the near post. Haven't had that since Harry Kane, and he's so good in the box. He's such a presence, and he'll occupy two players and allow more space for others. But I don't. I'd give it a solid 8.5. It's a massive risk when it comes to his personality, but
I'm going to bump it up. I'm going to bump
it
up to 8. I'm going to bump it up to 8.
Okay, yeah. We like a little flip flop on this.
Yeah.
And then Solanke.
8 as well. I really like the idea of Solanke. I really like him. I like.
Yeah, really nice guy, isn't he?
Yeah, good finisher. Good all round game has improved a hell of a lot. I would little bit younger than Tony as well. He's kind of on. This is his move. Like if he was to move to Spurs, that'd be. I suppose it's kind of the same as Tony in the sense that that's his big move. But I'd be happy with either of them. I think I would lean towards Solanke but maybe that's just that little bit of recency bias or sort of confirmation bias of the fact that you just like him that little bit more that maybe is getting in the way of what you actually think is best. But I think so. Yeah, I don't know. I really like that.
Solanke. He wouldn't cause any
He's
problems.
a gooner though. He's a gooner though.
Is he?
Apparently he's a gooner. Yeah. Did you not see the interview before the Arsenal game where he was talking about like he was an Arsenal fan as a kid and stuff, and he used to go to
fuck him off.
Yeah, get him off the list. 0.
Don't want it. 0. Yeah. Don't. Actually, Watkins is an Arsenal fan as well, and we're not even going to talk about it just because of that. No, because he's playing Chelsea football. I don't really see him ever. Like I don't see him come as Spurs at this point in his career. But Solanke. That's really. I wish you didn't tell me that. To be honest.
Yeah. Sorry.
Because we've already got too many gooners in the team.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want a team of gooners. We'll never be successful. And they'll be doing what we did to Arsenal yesterday. But yeah, I mean, he has everything we need from a striker, and he's just, I didn't realize how much he presses and how hard he works. There was a moment against Arsenal where he chased Rice for about 10 minutes. It was ridiculous. The Rice couldn't get away. He just carried on running back, chasing back, and just being on his heels. He's a proper hustler, but he's very sort of level-headed, and team comes first, and he looks very lovable. But yeah, I'd give him an 8. But it's just he'd be a lot of money. If he's on 19 goals this season, if he bags around 20, but by next weekend, they're going to be charging 65, 70 mil for him. They will be. Bournemouth. That's and they're on a good little trajectory as well. Bournemouth themselves. And then lastly, mate, Gyökeres.
Solid 9. It just looks fucking mint, doesn't he?
He looks ridiculous.
But then it's like, would you rather go with the more proven Premier League option, or? I mean, I don't think we can be like almost debating not signing Gyökeres because he's not Premier League proven. I don't think he's fucking quality. But yeah, I think he's probably the best option. But if it's any of those top 3, I think I'm very happy. But it's not going to be Gyökeres, is it? But who knows? Could it be Gyökeres?
Could be. I've seen the that compilation where he does that.
Yeah, it's cold. It's cold, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's added like tens of millions of pounds onto his price tag. I feel like that's
vibes add to the value, and that's the 100%. That's what it is with Gyökeres.
Get that Selly at the it's not even got a name. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Because I mean he has everything absolutely everything that we need. And also, again, Ange would love it because he's worked his way to the top. Rejected by Brighton, left on a free, Coventry, working his way up, and now he's the hottest topic in Europe at the moment. 26. He's is he 25, 26? He's the numbers is a joke. He's probably going to get to his pump. He's obviously learned so much from the Championship, then gone to the La Liga Portugal and absolutely dominated in his first season. Although Carlos Vinicius did that.
Exactly.
He dominated the Liga Portugal.
And he had a cold
yeah, that silly back at the lane.
I know, wasn't that? Was it? That was what was it? What's the start?
That's the Nottingham Forest owner, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, that like everything about Gyökeres just screams Ange ball and Ange's system. Elite presser, quick. The quick isn't his biggest like asset, but
he's like Haaland quick, isn't he? Like he's just
He's just powerhouse, but he's like really good he's really good technically, good dribbling.
Left footers are always that bit more like technical, aren't they? Except for Haaland, he's just clunky as fucking.
League Two.
Yeah, exactly. League Two quality.
But he just looks the part. But then it's just if we want us to pay the release clause, it's not going to happen.
No, exactly.
I mean that's 100 million euros, 85 million pounds.
And I think that is the only way you get him out of there. So.
Yeah, I think so. They'll do a Pedro Porro unless we then say, look, here's 70 mil plus we're taking Edwards.
Clause or something.
Sell-on clause, yeah. But unless we give him a player, I don't know. It just seems really unrealistic, especially with the competition. But yeah, everyone, you're all legends. Bit of a long pod. Thanks for sticking with us, but that was a Daring and Doing podcast.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed it. And Ben, where can we find you? Where can we find Daring and Doing on social media? You
can find Daring and Doing on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Give us a subscribe, follow on there, automatic download, all that good shit. 5-star review. You can find me on TikTok, Twitter mainly. I'm not even going to say YouTube coming soon because I say it every time, but that will happen. But yeah, thanks for. There'll be, we'll probably do a pod before Sheffield United. Probably won't we? I mean, it's Wednesday today, but we'll do one. We'll do one talking about that game on Friday and maybe or something. We'll chat about it then. So you'll hear from us again before the Sheffield United game. And then we'll be back with you before the end of the season, and then a big summer ahead. So thanks for sticking with us and supporting us and getting us to where we got now. Over 200 subs on YouTube now. Numbers on Spotify and Apple going up as well. So thanks for the love, and we appreciate it.
We hit a K on TikTok as well. Thank you so much. If you want to,
I really hate to break it to you, but whoever the cunt was that unfollowed, we're down to 999.
What? Fuck. Well, if you're not, go follow us. That's devastating.
Yeah.
We will be active a lot on. We will be active. Yeah, we will be active a lot on TikTok in the summer as well. But yeah, legends. Thank you so much, and let's get back to supporting Spurs on the weekend.
We love you, Ange.
We love you, Ange. We're so sorry.
We're sorry, Ange.